Day 3 of our training at the Irving Business School on backyard gardening. I want to thank again Irving and Dawn from the Ministry of Agriculture for being here. Thank Chair for organizing, Marcy again for coming out. We plan to go through today, now that we have started to look at our plants and we have done some planting and transplanting and so on and build with our soil preparation. We're now going to teach about how to maintain these plants. So we're going to look at pests and disease that affect plants and how to treat them, how to identify them, and then what corrective measures we take to ensure that we are optimized. So that is pretty much the lesson plan for today, more or less looking at the maintenance, how we treat our plants. And without any further ado, I will now invite Dawn from the Ministry of Agriculture to go through the first lesson with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Damien, and thank you again for coming. This morning I'm going to deal with diagnosis and management of plant diseases. We'll go right into it. What is a disease? We will look at what is a disease, the causes of disease in plants, how to identify when a plant has a disease, and the management of the disease. What is a disease? A defect on the look of the fruit or of the plant as a result of environmental factors. Those are things that are around us that may cause the plant to become sick or not normal. And other small microorganisms may also cause diseases. Now let me say up front that in order to identify if your plants have a disease, as we had spoken about in an earlier lesson, you have to first know what the plant looks like, what the plant should look like, the color of the plant, the normal development of the plant, so know that there is a problem. So a disease is a process that affects some of or all plant functions. And disease may also reduce the yield and the quality of the harvested product. And how do we know that the plants have a disease? We know by the symptoms or the signs that are seen on the plants. And we know that because we would already know what our original plant should look like. So we know when it does not look as though it has the characteristics of, and we see signs. And the symptom is a feature that expresses or indicates a condition of the disease. So a symptom, for example, maybe that the plant looks brown, as you will see over there on the right. The plant may look yellow, right? So that's a feature that expresses the condition that there is a problem. The sign may be that the plant is looking as though it is drooped, it is wilting, it is brown, it is looking as though it is dead or dying. The causes of plant diseases, biotic or living factors, and pathogens, as we will see later, or the abiotic or non-living factors, such as the temperature, water, nutrients. The pH, as we learned before, is the balance of the conditions of either your water or your soil conditions. And what we learned before is that our plants need a pH of between 6, 6.5, and pH, basically, as we will revise right now, to say that you have either acid or alkaline conditions. If it's below 6, it is acid, and if it's above 6, we have alkaline conditions. And we learned before that there are additives that we can place on the leaf or in the soil that can balance this condition, that will reduce the ability of the plant the susceptibility of the plant to have diseases. And wind is a transporter of diseases. Types of pathogens. We cannot see them so well, but here we have types of pathogens, which are some of which is fungus, we have bacteria, we have viruses, and we also have nematodes. Over on your right, you'll see the banana leaf we have there, and that banana leaf is showing fungal effect. The green banana leaf on the piece of leaf on the right, that is the original look the banana leaf should be. But on your left, you will see that we have sign of a fungus there. And we say that fungus are microscopic plants that lack chlorophyll. And chlorophyll, we learned before, is the greenness of the plant that allows it to take energy from the sun and give the plant food. So when we have, but fungus is a microscopic plant that lacks that condition. And we say microscopic because they're very, very tiny. And we see and identify the different types of fungus, and there are many. To identify which one that may be present in the particular plants, you have to look through a microscope to see that. Fungal diseases, they are spread through a variety of methods, and we have here the wind and water. The spores are the little tiny particles that are on the fruit or on the plant, and they can be blown around into the atmosphere and to be spread from one plant to the other, or one of your areas to the other. Examples of fungus disease, and we are going to just deal with a few that we may come across in our daily living. Anthracnose, damping off, gummy stem blight, and downy mildew. And I've chosen these because these are very prevalent diseases that we will come across as we do our farming. Go back. The anthracnose. I don't know if you have ever seen a pawpaw, and when it has a spot on it, or pears, you see them on pears as well. And if you take the pawpaw and you scoop it out, and you take your finger and you try to detach the little lesion, right? That is a way of identifying the anthracnose. You have it also on other plants that you may come across, like your pears. Normally it's on the pear leaf. You see the pear leaves may look at the tips and around the border, the margin of the pear leaf. You may see that it looks brown, and that is one of the ways that we can identify the anthracnose on the pears, along with the black cast or the black cast that you may see on the pears. Gummy stem blight, it actually looks like a gum, and sometimes you can see it on your trees when it has that oozy gum coming out. That is a gummy stem blight. The downy mildew, you may see like whiteness on the top of your leaf. It's sometimes under the bottom of your leaf, and then it comes from being white into yellow, and then it goes on to destroy the leaves, and it becomes brown. But it's a dust-like, powder-like stuff that you will see mostly on most of your plants. And I spoke about it because we're not seeing here clearly. So we have some examples, Romeo, go back, where we're not seeing it clearly, the fungal effect. But like this is an onion. If you cut open your onion and you see those type of dark lesions and rings inside of your onion, it is very likely that it is having a fungal attack. Right here, this is a type of bean, and you see those spotty ear. It's a type, this is a yam. Oh yeah, no, I didn't find it. Okay, it's a yam, anthracnose or yam. Where the yam leaves, you know it should be green, but it may have these brown spots on it. And in Barbados, what a lot of people do is that they plant corn between the yam so that the leaves the yam vines onto the corn. You get the advantage of picking your corn, but as the corn plant is finished, then the yam vines onto it. And the reason why they put it to vine onto the corn is so that the fungus that is inside of the soil will not be splashed onto the yam leaves, causing it to manifest the fungal effect on the leaves of the yam. So it's just like raising the crop off of the ground then, through the spiraling onto the yam. And this is how they may see on the underside of your leaf, you may see this type of, it starts off, may start white, and then it may start to break out into these disease-like conditions here. So it's important that when you're farming, then you look to look for insects or disease. You look on your leaf, you look all around your plant, but you have to know, utilize your net to see what the different diseases looks like, match it up to what you have, and then you can have verification from the experts to see, well, yes, this is what we really have. But once you read about your plants, you will know the particular disease that your plants will normally be susceptible to catching. Okay? Right, we have more examples. I'm certain you are identifying this. Anybody can tell me? Banana? Banana. Right? And we can see it over there. We have one that I cut for you this morning. On your right, you see what the banana leaf should look like. Very green and lush. But over there, we are identifying this problem that is called yellow cicotoca. Now, all of these diseases have names, and as you become more studious, then you will eventually learn the names of the diseases that will affect your crops. The yellow cicotoca on the banana plant over there. This is supposed to be the onion, but what we should be seeing is that the onion, we know what an onion is supposed to, a nice fresh onion is supposed to look like, but then now the onion veg will manifest on the outer skin that we do have a problem. So the outer skin may have this blackness on it, right? And then when you cut it, then you may see the problem that we have, that we've seen before, that it really did have a problem of a fungus infection. Anybody have noticed this before on the lettuce? Little spots on your lettuce. Your lettuce is not supposed to look like that. So when you go inside of the store and you buy lettuce like this, you know that it's a fungus. Most of them don't affect you anyhow. Most of them, the lettuce will affect you, but that's a fungus disease on your lettuce, and it may come from the splashing of the water onto your leaves. And that is why one of the things that Romeo would have spoken about before, I think, is mulching. That's why we do the mulching of our vegetables, so to reduce the incidence of having splash-borne diseases, and in this case, the fungus. We go on to bacteria, which is another pathogen. And bacteria, like the fungus, are very, very tiny particles. That's why we have the microscopic organisms. And they cause diseases such as galls, leaf spots, soft rot, scab, and other disorders. And when you have a chance, you can go here and look at the samples that we have. The exhibits that we have will show bacterial effect on the Irish potato over there, and on the orange, and on the guava that we have over there as our exhibit. One of the ways in which we can identify none of these bacteria is that the fruit or the plant is normally spotty. They're normally spotty, right? And most of these spots are related to bacteria. And bacteria are a significant cause of disease because they can multiply very rapidly in improper environments. When we have environment of moisture or environment where it is very warm. The thing about bacteria is that it's like, it reacts like if you have a cut. You get a cut and the pathogen or the carrier goes in and infects the whole fruit. So the bacteria normally enter, right? They generally cannot invade healthy tissues. They need wounds or openings to infect. So just like your cut, when you have a cut or the fruit or the plant gets a cut, the bacteria enter the plant or the fruit. or if you cut the branches. That's why sometimes when we are pruning or we're trimming or we seal our plants. Some people seal them with paint, you know. If you're dealing with vegetables, most people after they have cut off affected leaves, which we should cut off or affected leaves and move them or remove affected debris or fruits from in the area that contaminates our environment. We should remove them. And for vegetables, if we are removing affected leaves, because you may have a plant that is affected, but it's not finished. It's still bearing, it's still showing signs of healthy fruit. What you do is you cut off those defected leaves and remove them and and let the plant regenerate new leaves, which we know and we learned before that to regenerate our new leaves we will use nitrogen, the N that is in that NPK that we learned about in our first lesson, right? And also our phosphorus, which we'll put it in our roots. Put it to our roots, and we will also use the phosphorus and the nitrogen are the two main elements that at that point, if you are trimming your plant, that you want to use, so the plant will regenerate fresh.
Like I said, what you said just now,
the nitrogen and the phosphorus. I'm just doing a little revision as we go along to wrap everything in, right? So, so if you have infected tissues, you want to move away those infected tissues and regenerate your plant. The example of bacterial diseases, we already said that we have the spotting, the onion blast, right? You can do some more research so that you can identify it. And I think we have here that we are identifying that the bunchy top, right? The third one from the end, that is important. The bunchy top, we see it on your pawpaw trees, where the top of the pawpaw trees begin to look yellow and the pawpaw tree begins to decline. Can affect our fruit, so the pawpaw tree, the quality of the fruit. But another way that you can identify your bunchy top on your pawpaw tree is if you look at the stem of the pawpaw tree, it has something like water soaked spots, like greasy spots onto the stem. That is a way in which you can identify the bunchy top on the pawpaw tree. So like I said, it is important that you go in and if you see your plant have a problem, you read upon it. Look to match it up to what you see on the net. The net is very efficient on that. And to see what your problems are. Right, so here we see the spotting on the tomatoes. I'm certain we are identifying this because sometimes we have them on the market. They don't affect you too much, but it's just not pleasing to the eye. So the tomato plant you're seeing there has a bacteria. Viruses can only live or replicate or produce within the plant, right? When you have a virus outbreak, they cease to produce chlorophyll, meaning that the leaves are not green as if they're supposed to be green. They're not green, right? They may turn yellow, and a lot of times, a lot of our viruses, these yellow raisins that comes on the leaf between the green, right? And what I must say here too as well is that you may see yellow between the green, as Romeo had showed you when we were looking at deficiencies, but deficiencies are not a little uniform. When you have a disease problem, all of the symptoms are erratic. So you may see a spot here, spot there, spot all over, as with the tomato we just saw, right? But when you have a nutrient deficiency, it may be uniform along the vein, as we saw before. But the disease, you may see it just like how we have it there, those particular patterns. So viruses affect also the greenness of the leaves, and the cells may either grow or divide rapidly That's the effective cells, right? Which causes the deformity on the fruit or on the plant. When you get a chance, you can look at that zucchini there on the table, and you will see on it, it has like little deformed bumps. It's supposed to be smooth, but when it's affected by a virus, when it's a zucchini that is picked up of a virus plant, it has that kind of bumpiness on it, which the market does not take that at all. And there are many viruses, and they can be transmitted from plant to plant, just like the coronavirus. So it's plant by the living factor, which are the insects, the mice, the fungus, or other organisms such as nematodes. Or by rubbing. That's why the corona, you're not supposed to touch up and rub, right? Or if you have abrasions, or if you have machinery that goes through your field or in your backyard, or people that come in there, your clothes, and come from a defective field that has insects and transfer most of these pathogens. The fungus too, because the fungus can go onto your clothes and go from one place to the next. And we have some examples here of viruses. You're not seeing it so well, but right. You go on the net and you will identify a little better how the leaf should look and how it looks when it has the virus. We go on to nematodes, very small organisms as well. They cannot be seen with the naked eye, right? And these nematodes are normally under the ground. So they infect the roots and the bulbs, and we have some that will also affect your foliar, which is the leaves, right? And as they feed, they weaken and stretch out the plant, and so are the other diseases. So, but the nematode is an insect. It's one of those pathogens because these viruses and fungus are also transmitted not only by water and wind, but also insects. And these nematodes are normally under the ground. And this is the cause. When you have a problem with your plant, sometimes you may be spraying your foliar feeders, which is your nutrients that goes through the leaves. You may be treating for diseases and all that kind of stuff, but it may be something that's happening at the root, at the base of your plant. So sometimes when you are having a big effect and you don't understand what is going on at all, it's not matching to, you're not identifying it well, you can take out one of the plants, what we call roguing the plant, and examine your roots. And the sign that we will see, the symptom that we will see coming from the nematode outbreak would be these little nodules onto your little balls onto your root. When your root should be straight and smooth, right? If it's a normal root that we're dealing with, then they have little knots onto them. That's a problem. That's a problem. Over here, this looks like a carrot that is being affected. All those little nodules that are onto the root. So you're having a problem, it has to be treated. So when we're going to treat them, right. Now we have to take care of our sanitation. What we talk about just now was sanitizing, taking out your plants that are defective, right? And we avoid infected sites. So we did earlier on in our lessons about choosing our sites, or if you have sites that are affected, you avoid it. So you clean your soil, you have to choose clean planting material, clean tools, inspection, removal of all debris, we dealt with that, and tissue culture. That's an important one. I want you to research that. The use of the last one, tissue culture, can provide disease-free planting material. And we have a tissue culture lab at the ministry, And we actually take little small plants of plants that we want to select, and you culture, you grow those plants into some little test tubes. So you actually have to do this tissue culturing in a laboratory, and it's a very sterile environment. So research that and see the importance of it. Then after you have grown your plants, that's another lesson down the road. Then in your small little test tubes, you transplant them into your bags and all your seedling crates, and you nurture them, and you have disease-free material. If you are moving material from one area of Barbados to another area, you may move material that is not clean, that is affected by, have signs of the pathogens. But if you do it in a tissue culture lab, it's pure. In the treatment, we have pesticide treatments that we can do if we have our nematodes or our diseases. So we have fungicides. We treat the name of the chemical that you will use, whether it's organic or inorganic, to treat your fungus if you have it. Would be, the name is fungicides, bactericides for the treatment of bacteria. Right? They come in dust form, sprayer form, you know. We have to do, right? Insecticides may also be useful for managing the insect vectors. Right, okay, we dealt with that. Right, so we have fungicides, bactericides, insecticides. And we also have nematicides for the nematodes. And most of them you will have to like drench the soil, you have to throw it into the soil. We also can practice crop rotation. So it is useful against soil-borne diseases. So if you have disease in your soil, you will plant one crop this time around, plant another crop, because all insects do not affect the same crop. The insect or the fungus, the pathogen that affects the tomato will not affect the beans. It will not affect the cabbage. They all have different pathogens, different insects, different fungus, different viruses that affects all of them. And as you study, you will realize that. And you can always check with your agricultural shops to see which fungicide, which nematicide, which insecticide that you can use for the very different crops. But here are your soil-borne diseases, so you will remove residues, right? Here we have a very unique way of control, and we're saying that the residues of some plants that we have here in the cabbage may be toxic to some other pathogens, right? So that is why sometimes even people plant, may use crops such as the mint, lavender, between the plants to help to control some of these pathogens. So I think we dealt with just now with that cultural practice to minimize the spread of disease. We can use favorable irrigation practices, because there are some plants that will grow the fungus if you wet the leaves. They prefer not to have the leaves wet, especially outside is very humid, right? So the method you use to irrigate is important. The timing of your planting. There are some crops that will grow certain times of the year. Some crops that may prefer to grow, let's say, in the cooler months. So if you plant them in the drier months, they may, the response of the plant to the environmental factors that we dealt with before, will affect and cause the plant to become ill. So we have to research our plants, know our varieties, because you may have some varieties that may grow in the cooler months, and some may grow any time of the year. So we have to pay very close attention to the selection of our crops, especially in this time of climate change. You have to study what varieties we're going to use, read upon them as you go into your catalogs. What are the preferred condition the plant likes to grow? Because growing outside of that condition, the plant is susceptible to becoming ill. So, in summary, understand the difference between the signs and the symptoms. I don't have to go through all of that because we know that we have to study our plants, we have to know what they look like. These are some of the main factors, and identify when we have a problem, go and research and see how we're going to treat them. Over here on the table we have the bacteria seen on the pawpaw, and we also have the sign that we will see. The sign that we will see on the top of the pawpaw plant. That's the top of the pawpaw plant where all the leaves were as soon as they cut the bunchy top, the leaves came off and left it bare like that. So afterwards that you can view the specimens, and thank you very much for your time. Ask.
Okay, hi, my name is Irving.
From entering to the
So when they do have a cut, you would put a bandage over it to prevent the bacteria.
So even if it grows like that, are they still capable of bearing the pawpaws at the very top, or is everything gone to hell? So as in, is it good? Should I just chop down my tree? Should I just do like you did, or can we use the pawpaws on the tree?
Yes, you will cut.
All of that, she said.
You cut down the tree, the defected tree, and the pawpaw tree you can cut it at least 2 feet and let it regrow. Regenerate.
Okay.
Because the different wouldn't taste well. It wouldn't taste well. Wouldn't be a good one.
Okay, put more of a. I noticed some of the leaves look black, and when it comes to the guava leaves, all that is saying that.
Okay, this is an example that we have here, right? We call that problem sooty mole, and that's a fungus. In Barbados, what some people do.
So what do you do? Like, after cut again and let that grow just like the other tree? No. What do you do?
No, actually it washes off very easily. Some people use soap sud to wash
Wait,
it.
hold a second, because they can't look at her doing that. Okay, tell me again now.
Right, but there are a lot of plants that...
Say what you said before about washing what?
There are a lot of plants that have that problem, that blackness. In Barbados, everybody calls everything blight. So they say it has a blight, but it's actually a fungus. And that fungus actually grows onto the secretions that the insects give off onto the plant. So most times we see on lime trees, we see it a lot on lime trees as well, more on citrus trees. Most times that's when you have a prevalence of ants. So what happens is that the ants give off a secretion, and that fungus, that blackness that we see, grows onto that secretion. So what people do is that they treat the plants for insects, against insects. The white flies cause it as well. They treat it for the insects, and they may put a fungicide as well to take care of that fungus.
Same thing. My mother has a banana tree, and we find that the leaves have gotten really, really brown, and they just seem to be falling off.
result of this problem that we saw?
Yes. She tried to chop it and cut it out and try to grow it again, but it doesn't seem to be. Probably doesn't seem to be going away.
Well, it may be environmental, or sometimes it's best to change your environment or to change the variety if you have a problem with crops.
Did she try treating it with anything?
Nope, she didn't do a thing. She just left it, just dropped off. That was the end of that.
That's the problem.
Okay, also with the tomatoes, the tomatoes don't seem to be growing. Her tomatoes, they seem to be very, very small. They're not getting big at all.
Probably needs to go fertilizer. She needs an extension officer. You need to contact us so we can visit. Yes, it's result of fertilizer. On the fertilizer.
Oh. Okay. Papa?
Nó cũng khi các bạn trẻ hẳn qua lên đây.
Okay. So I tried growing some hot peppers as well, and they don't seem to be growing very much. They just go to a certain level and just stop.
Besides that, right for some of the roots, not fertilizing. We can also visit if she wants.
Okay. Does anybody know how long it takes watermelons to grow?
3 months from the seed, from sowing of the seed. As she buys the seedlings, she will have them in 2 months. As she buys the seedlings, she can have them in 2 months from the property.
When I tried it, it took like almost like 4 months for it to grow. I have to show you. Okay. Okay. She'll show you this.
Johnson.
And so, lawyers or something, right? But at the same time, let's what's the thing that we use that we had last week?
Fertilizer? Fertilizer?
The white one.
Self-ammonia?
Self-ammonia.
Right.
Yeah.
You can use some of that for
Lack of fertilizer.
the seed soil.
Yes.
The peppers.
That's good.
Would that be good?
That will have our phosphorus as well.
Okay. That's one.
In most cases, it's a lack of fertilizer that affects the growth of the plant. In most cases. Right? We in Barbados don't like to fertilize. We think once we plant, we say amen, and everything will grow.
And our soils are not that healthy.
Right? And all soils have been depleted for a number of years. Right? So fertilizer is mostly the case of a lack of it.
I had a pepper tree, and it was blooming, but then I forgot it started to get good, and it didn't have ants in it. Sorry. And then you can put Epsom salt and put it and kill it.
But extra what?
Epsom salt.
Oh.
Kill the tree.
And it killed the plant.
Too much. You put too much.
Yep.
She just
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Alvin Romeo, and I'll be looking at insects, managing insects, and in fact, I like to say managing pests. Right? For a lack of time, I won't go through everything or may speed up. But this morning, we want to talk about IPM, Integrated Pest Management. Integrated pest management. In other words, we're not going to just spray to get rid of the pests. We're going to look and see what other things we can do on your farm that you can get rid of your pests. Okay? Integrated pest management. Yeah, PAST. Right? So for me, spraying or using chemicals is the last option. Using chemicals is your last option to get rid of pests. The other things that you can do, that you can eradicate or reduce the pests from around you. Now, just go ahead, just see that, we put all together. Over here is the pest. Now the pest may not be at your house or your backyard, but the pest is somewhere around. And over here is your plants. And between the pest and your plants, there are three things that we're going to talk about how we can reduce the pest from affecting you. Okay? Now, the first thing is what we call a physical barrier. And that is putting up a netting. It could be an insect netting. It could even be what we call the black shades. You just want to reduce the pests from coming in. Right? Now, as I said before, this week, when it was small, I loved butterflies, the pretty butterflies, but now I realize butterflies bring ants, worms. So when you see a butterfly, I know that in the next 2 minutes, it's going to lay an egg. In the next 10 days, you're going to have larvae, and I'm going to destroy my crop. So for you as a farmer, you want to control, let's say, those butterflies first. So that is where your physical barrier comes in place. A netting or some kind of black net is an insect net. You can put a netting around your crop to protect your plant. The next one, I call them garden frames. Guys using garlic spray, right? Some people use peppermint, we're going to talk about that later on. So things that you could spray on your crop to either reduce or prevent the pests from coming. For example, our neem is a good example. Right? You neem oil, or you could soak 4 leaves in a liter of water, and you could spray that on your crop, and it acts as a barrier for these pests. So we have the physical barrier, then we have our garden frames, and then we have the other barrier where you could use the organic stuff, even wood ash. Wood ash controls snails and slugs and stop them from coming onto your property. Right? The old people would know about stinking missy, marigold. Yeah, you plant them in between your crop. So all of these are some barriers that you put to reduce the pests from coming in. Everybody understand me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So far, you can reduce about 50%, and you haven't used any spray at all. Now, my question, and just make it quick, what is a pest? We talk about controlling the pest, but what is a pest? Any person can answer. Yes and no. You're thinking agriculture. What is a pest generally? What is a pest? Thank you. Anything that annoys or disturbs your normal activity is a pest. Anything that annoys you or disturbs you from doing anything becomes a pest. So people are pests, right? Insects are pests. Certain plants you may want tomato growing, but you may get some sweet potato growing among the tomatoes, so that becomes a pest. So once anything disturbs or annoys the normal growth, that becomes a pest. So that is what you want to control. Not your friends that call you all the night. You're not controlling them, but they may be pests too. That's right. Okay, one of the first things and most important thing is something called scouting. What is scouting? Scouting is when you actually look for the pest. When you go in your plot and you look for the pest. Now, what time of the day is important? Because between, let's say 7 in the morning and probably 3, when the sun is out, the pest will be hiding. So it makes no sense scouting or looking during that time of the day. So after the sun is going down, or 6 o'clock when it's light, the pest normally come out. So that is the best time. Take a searchlight and you go looking for the pest at that time. So scouting is very important because at this scale, most of us at a small scale, you could even destroy some of the pests if you catch them. Right? So scouting is important, looking, but look at the right time so that you're able to catch the pest. Because when you get up in the morning, the snail or the African snail may eat off half the leaves already. And when at 8 o'clock, they're going back hiding underneath some bushes. So scouting is important. Okay, now they are out of how much million pests in the world. The pests normally do 3 things. I'm going to tell you, look for 3 signs to see what is happening to your crop. Right? 3 signs. 1, pests will either bite or chew the leaves. 3 symptoms, thank you. 3 symptoms, not signs. So you got biting and chewing insects. So like you have here, beetles, leaf miner, butterflies, moths, all of these either bite a hole in the leaf or bite a part of the leaf. We'll show you some examples. This is supposed to be a citrus leaf, and you can see all the vegetation or the green part is gone. So if you see that in your farm, you know you've got a biting insect doing damage. Next picture. This is some other examples. This is a corn. This is corn. And you can see some damage. Right? So therefore you have a biting insect. Sorry, because of the light you can't see the picture as well. Right? But also you can see over here you've got insect damage, but they are biting insects. Here you can see pictures of the butterfly and actually the worm here. And for those who could pick up, these are the eggs of the butterfly. Most of them are small and yellow. And once the butterfly stops by that leaf, for any 5 minutes, he will deposit some eggs. So at that time, you could even destroy the eggs and you will cut that cycle from going on. Okay, these are just some more examples of insects and the damage. Okay, so the second thing an insect will do, besides biting, they're what we call sucking insects. So sucking insects pierce, so they could be scales, mini bugs, white flies, aphids. All of these suck what we call the sap of the leaf. So what's the sign that you're going to look for? You're going to look for your leaves twirling or turning in or something out because of the insects. Most of them on the outside or inside, so they're sucking the leaf. What is important, what Don was saying, it is these sucking insects that will transfer your virus and bacteria. The sucking insects. So they will leave your neighbor plant pawpaw that have a bunch of top and come to your pawpaw, which was clean, and the insects will transfer the disease from one plant to another. The sucking insects. So it may be a case where I never had a problem, but because your neighbor is not controlling the problem, it will come to you. Yeah, curly leaves or curl leaves is a sign of the sucking insect. In many cases, you may not see the insect underneath the leaf, but you certainly see the signs or the symptoms that the plant has an insect that is sucking. Okay, this is a cotton. You can't see very well. Let's go on. Where's the next one? I wish you could pick up. And if you could pick up here, this is some white flies, some small magnified white flies. Okay, the third thing you could notice is what we call boring or tunneling insects. So this insect is not on top of the leaf or underneath, it's actually in between the surface of the leaf. And it channels its way around the leaf. So you may see a white silverish line moving around. For example, this is the insect here, the leaf miner, and it travels this way and come around here, and they keep moving. We normally say on onions, on chive. Yeah, you see on chive here, you see it, yeah, the leaf miner will go through. So they're not on the top or the surface, they're not underneath, they're actually in between or inside the leaf. And they bore the way or the tunnel way inside the leaf. The cucurbits as well, you see another leaf here, all these lines are what the leaf miner will damage the leaf miner disease. Okay, so you have the biting insects, you have the sucking insects, and the final ones you will have the boring insects or tunneling insects. Okay, for this slide, I just want to show you one example of the potato cutworm and how it multiplies, and most insects are like this. We will start at the adult stage, and one adult will lay about 350 eggs. Right? In 2 to 9 days, those eggs will develop to larvae, the larva stage, and then in about a month, it develops to a pupal stage, and then in another month, it goes back to an adult. Yes. Now, so remember, one adult with 50 eggs, and she normally have 2 generations a year. So imagine 350 eggs maturing to larva. Just one adult, what they call potato worm. Now, it is at this stage you get the most damage, the larva stage. This is where the worm starts eating your leaves. Sometimes go to the sweet potato itself and go inside the sweet potato. So if you have 100 adult butterflies, do the multiplication, how many offspring you're going to have as the eggs, or how much larva you're going to have to affect you. Okay? And most, if not all of them, have about the same thing. So this is why you try to control, as in stopping the adult from coming to your property or even destroying the eggs before it gets to this stage. Okay? So briefly, we're just going to go through some cultural methods that you can control or reduce some of these insects. And this one is called a chili pepper mix, where you take the chili pepper and you cut it, of course, to expose the seeds, because it's the seeds of the pepper that give it the pungent. And then it is against, you can spray against aphids, flies, ants, and caterpillars. I even add garlic to my mix as well. You crush the garlic and mix it in with the chili pepper. Right? And remember, these will not kill the insects, but they act like a repellent, so the insects won't come around. Question? Oh, okay. Here's a question. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Can you use regular, like, hot scotch bonnet pepper?
Yes, you can. You can do that. But my advice, if you're going to use a hot pepper, don't use it with leafy crops, like the lettuce and the cabbage, because it will leave a hot taste on it.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, yes, for those who like it, yeah. But it will leave a taste on it. So we talked about the neem as well. to the neem tree, you can buy the green X, or you can use the neem tree. 4 leaves to a liter of water. 4 leaves, because we don't use a whole bunch because it will be bitter, and it controls caterpillars, weevils, and aphids. I know people even put it in their flour, people put it in their rice to control weevils as well. Just the neem tree, just the leaves for storage. Not to cook. Okay. I said before, this is
Go back a bit. 1 minute.
for the neem.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. As I said before, you can use marigold and plant it in between your crops. It not only repels the insects, but it also controls.
What kind of smell does that have?
It has a smell.
Yes.
It's stinky missing.
I don't like that smell. Yeah.
Yeah, it's stinky missing. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't stand that
You
smell.
can't stand smell. Okay. Yeah. But it has. And I think it's that thing that runs the insects as well. Yeah, that's right. It runs the insects as well. Right? But it also controls fungus as well. Right? So these natural things can also help you. Right? And as I said before, even wood ash, I know this, the fire service has some limits to the burning nowadays, but if you can get wood ash, right, and put it around your border, right, because the snails will crawl from somewhere. You put the wood ash around your border, the snails will not crawl over the wood ash. African snails or even the local snails. So in that way, and slugs, you can control your slugs and snail population by using wood ash. Alright? I'm going to end here by introducing you to probably 2 natural insecticides that are found here in Barbados. Right? So they are recently the number of companies are bringing natural insecticides also that you can use instead of the harsh chemicals that you can use to reduce or what I say repel the insects. I often tell people you cannot kill all insects because insects were here before us. And when you die and when we die, the insects will still be here. So what you want to do is to reduce the insects from your property so that you will have good production. Okay? Just reduce the insects from your property. Any questions?
No, I was what's happening. On that stuff. But once I see it, I can remember.
Okay, so I don't use chemicals, but it tastes so strong when I use it. And I know it can probably be a risk. But I prefer though to I want to know what is the safest thing that I can put around them instead of.
Okay, so this morning for our practical session, what we'll be doing is preparing our beds to plant. Okay, but we'll be doing what we call minimum tillage today. Because outside is wet, right? We can't prepare the whole bed, so we will prepare just the area we're going to transplant our seedlings. So we call that minimum tillage. That will be the top. Right? Transplant our seedlings. And then
Things that are okay.
Right? And then we'll remove the weeds and put some animal manure in the soil as well. Prepare it for planting.
They also will introduce shade cover. And here we have some net. And this net, right, we're introducing the shade covering. And this net actually keeps out some of the sun's rays. And what is supposed to happen is that the plant will have a faster
development because we are having it on the kind of control environment. So this shade net lets in about 48%. This is there are different grades, and this is a 48% shade net, which it allows the adequate belief shade house. But of course you can expand it for your purpose. And also we want you to observe today too that you have the introduction of some pests that destroyed one of your plants behind there. You can look back and see. Carry your plant to maturity. 2 feet. So the practice of minimal tillage, you will just dig the holes adequate enough to plant the plant 2 feet apart. And we will add into the plant, into the holes. This soil is clay. It's clay, very clay. Clay. It is tough. Also adding the manure, and then we have some sand to create a very acceptable environment for the development of the roots. And also the sand will create air, give the soil more aeration, because we need the air. We need the sunlight, and we need the water. But clay soils, the tough soil, the clay soils, they hold in a lot of water. The particles are very small, so they hold water. But we want the soil to be a little more loose. Also, in the preparation of our beds, we should remove the weeds. We just learned about pests, and the weeds being the pests, the unacceptable plants. Because we just need to grow the plant that we want to plant and not compete with the other plants. A better space. And they may also encourage the insects that we spoke about this morning. That will affect the plants and cause diseases. Okay? So we're ready. So, all that, alright, so
Tell her.
it is difficult for her to do that under this condition.
Yeah.
You should have been prepared before, no problem. We will still plan.
Okay.
What I'm trying to do is to see if we can come back with a hole. Okay, so one hole. So come. I like this bed because it's in the sun. So what are they doing? They're preparing, they're going to put in some of it down, and they're going to plant the zucchini.
Exactly what she has to do now. You're giving her that?
Demonstration.
Yep. That's what.
Down. Throw some in here.
Want a bigger fork?
No, you use a small one. Maybe another one.
on foot. Improvise.
A sound technician upgrade there.
That's true, that's how they come here.
I usually come first.
Yeah, she has what?
Yeah, we could. I'm on one. That's real tough. We got it, but not down there. Not the gap plan because. Actually, so much to get this side. Throw something here. Throw it out. Put the button and thing down there. Yeah, we see what. You put the button and thing down there. Put the opening back up here. Alright, we'll plant it here then.
Plant here. Plant here.
Cucumber.
Yep, Mother. Put it in.